Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it is you are. I'm Spencer Campbell. This is Coffee Break. So good to see all of you. It's been a while since we didn't have coffee week or coffee week, coffee break last week. You can tell I haven't started drinking my coffee yet. Uh, I was in the process of moving, which has been very stressful but very exciting. And now I'm finally starting to settle in. You can see I've got my books up on my shelf, which I'm very excited about. And I am here with just a wonderful person, a good friend of mine. Rae is here to come chat with us. Rae, introduce yourself to the folks at home. Where can they find you? Throw all that promo stuff at the beginning because we're going to promo you a lot.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rae Nedjadi. My pronouns are they, he. Yeah, you can find me on temporalhiccup.itch.io where I have uh, a lot of games. I have about like 40 plus games on. But I've been taking a break. I've been working on some of the bigger ones. Some of my bigger games are Balikbayan, which is a supernatural cyberpunk game featuring Filipino folklore, which is a lot of fun, and Apocalypse Keys, which is about monsters holding back the apocalypse, solving mysteries. I almost called the game Apocalypse Kisses for a reason, though. Yeah, so yeah, but there's a bunch of stuff. I do love working on games. I love TTRPG so much. So yeah, I also want to because I'm also here partially as Josh 2.0. You should check out Vibe Check. I did the layout for that game, and it's a very, 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 very good game by Josh, and you should check it out.
There you go. It's so the last guest we had was Josh Hiddy, and he is here with us in spirit because Rae, yeah, absolutely crushed crushed the layout for Vibe Check. It is
Yeah.
such a good looking book between the layout
I
and all the
almost
art.
sacrificed my PC for that layout. So
I remember hearing that. Like there's like a lot of layers going on there. There's a lot of stuff going on.
yeah, in the chat I said it was originally 700 megabytes, but I actually checked and it was 800
Oh,
megabytes for the first PDF. It's not 800 megabytes anymore. It's much smaller. It's much smaller. So the the
800
the the
megabytes. You
the
embedded
PDF
a
this
video of you making it in the layout itself. Like, just so you know, here's how a tutorial on every page on how you made that page. Like,
I wish. Oh my gosh. With the second PDF, I just named it Please Let This Be Smaller. That was the name of the PDF.
nice. That's amazing. I didn't
But
realize that you
yeah,
had like,
Josh is also in the chat. Hi Josh. Hello, hello.
yeah. Hey, Josh, Dice Ghost is here. Happy to have folks coming and hanging out. Damn, I didn't realize you had like 40 games up on your itch page.
Yeah,
That is wild.
a lot of them are tiny games. Like I have a couple of pamphlets games, and I joined a lot of itch.io game jams in the first 2 years. Like
Hmm.
um people almost had an intervention with how often I was joining game jams. There was a bit of like, Ray, we're a little worried about you. So
Another one? Another one, Ray?
like, really, you don't have to join every single one, right? So but it got to the point where there were too many game jams and I couldn't join all of
Mm.
them. So that's what got me to stop.
I know like MV like hosts that one site that lists all the like TTRPG game jams that are going on right now, and I every once in a while I
Mhm.
open it up just be like maybe I'll look for inspiration here, and then I see all the jams that are happening, and I just go,
There's so many.
how would I even begin to pick? And then there's like some that have been going on for so long. I'm like, this one's still going on? Like I thought I had sort of dodged the bullet and didn't submit anything to Random Adventure Jam, and it's still going on. And I'm like, ah,
Ooh,
shit.
tempting
Do I
you.
have
You
to? Like,
know,
it's still
you
two
can totally do
weeks.
it. Yeah, you got it. You got it. You could fit it in.
I I could, and
Yeah,
maybe
sorry,
I
I have my
will.
evil Sith voice. I
Right?
have my
Yeah.
evil Sith game jam voice.
This is this is generally the vibe I've gotten from you in our interactions is that you you seep ideas into the mind, not even necessarily subtly, like I said. It's just like you should
No,
do this.
no.
You're gonna do this.
I have never been accused of being subtle. I will admit. I will admit.
That is awesome. Yeah, there are like Dice Coast is saying, there's just so many. Oh, and Fauna saying game jams are the only way I'd make make games, so I get that. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that is one of the cool things about jams is it's
Mhm.
hard to start like with a blank slate and be like make a game, like a whole game without any prompting. What am I supposed to do? But like a jam puts you on a path, and that is super helpful.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
I haven't submitted to a jam in a while. Maybe I'll do that. I need to like. I was thinking about this last
Yeah.
night. I was thinking about this last night, Ray.
Mhm.
I'm curious what you think. Like, as somebody who is just producing and producing and producing, like I was thinking about the games or the stuff that is like motivating to me, and like
Hmm.
I've hit like points where I feel like a sense of obligation to work on something because I've like talked about it a lot or I've like started working on
Mm.
it. So there's that like
Mhm.
that part of me that's like you should be working on this. So like for me, for example, it's the Nova faction turn. I'm enjoying
Mm.
it. I like it.
Mhm.
But like right
Mhm.
now I've hit such a roadblock with it that like every time I open up the document, I'm like, fuck, this is what I have to work on right now? Really? This? And like, I wonder, like, do you ever get into like funks like that of where you're like, this is the thing I quote unquote have to work on versus like the freedom of just like, I'm just gonna do whatever I want right now?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. So like I have some real deadlines. Like with Apocalypse Keys, I just submitted the final draft and like so I understand, but like I will admit this is not I don't recommend everybody do this, but in an average day I switch between about 3 to 5 games. And I
Oh,
just
damn.
like yeah, and then like I really listen to my brain where I'm like, okay, I'm working on factions for Apocalypse Keys right now, and you can feel that sludge when it stops flowing and it
Yeah.
just turns into sludge, right? And I'm like, oh, it's not working. How about I do layout for vibe check, or how about I switch to once more into the void, and then like I just switch
Yeah.
around between, and sometimes like it's really short. Sometimes I only work on like layout or whatever it is for just about 15-30 minutes before I go back to something else, and sometimes it's like an hour 2 hours for each one.
Oh,
So
that's
my my
that's
my
good.
problem is I'm trying to keep it to just 3 to 4 hours of work a day. I usually do
Mm.
about 6 to 12, which is not great.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to keep it to 3 to 4. I'm trying to keep it to 3 to 4.
I mean, I do truly love that idea of like, and I've thought about doing that myself, and then there's just for some reason I don't let myself do it. Where it's like, no, I said I was gonna work on this, and I'm gonna work on this until it's done. Damn it! And then exactly like you said, like the sludge comes on, and I'm like, I'll fight through the sludge. You never want to fight through the sludge. No, no, no
Yeah,
good comes from the sludge.
it's
So
true.
I,
It's true.
I do like that idea, like of just like, you know what? Let me just palette cleanse. 15 minutes, mess around with something in Affinity, or 15 minutes. Let me just write an NPC for this thing, and then just
Yeah.
that's good. I like that.
Hmm.
Maybe I will borrow that technique from you because that sounds very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. And I feel like switching between layout and writing really helps too
Mm,
because you go to different parts of your brain, right? So like the switch is really, or like even just NPC versus mechanical writing. So because
yeah.
like with Apocalypse Keys, I got to the point where I was dying because I was doing that chapter about like how does a PBTA move work,
Oh,
and like I was like, oh, I feel my soul leaving my body. I don't wanna write this. So
yeah.
yeah, I was switching around. This is the necessary work, and then this is the little bit fun work. So yeah, 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 for sure.
Yeah. I I've made it a goal for myself throughout February because I'm itch funding cold iron is every day,
Yeah,
ideally in the
looks cool.
morning. Oh, thank you. Ideally in the morning, although it won't always be the morning because I have to go to work early. But at some point every day, I want to just design like a small element of the town because it's a setting and
Hmm.
then a campaign framework. So like, just make an interesting NPC and like all the stuff that I write for it doesn't necessarily have to go into the book, but like just write something about a person who lives in town. And now I have that. Write a location. And then at the end of the month, I've got a bunch of stuff that I could use to throw in there. And I'm hoping it's going to, first of all, make it so I don't feel like I'm writing the whole thing at once. And then second of
Right,
all,
right.
like I could use it as the palate cleanser because it's kind of like Chris Bizet, who I find very inspiring as a designer. They do like a morning writing ritual. Chris has written about their writing rituals and everything like that, and so I was like, oh, I should do something like that. And then I like immediately gave up on it because I'm horrible at starting habits. But I think this one, if I,
No, starting a habit is hard.
it's
Yeah.
so hard. So I figure if it's for this cold iron thing that I'm already super jazzed about, I think I can do that as my morning writing ritual and be like super into it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I feel like, if it helps sometimes when I'm really struggling, I try to give myself like just a few seconds imagining how good it'll feel reading the final
Mm,
game. Or like, and in your case, right, because you print a lot of your games, like just like imagining it printed and in your
holding it
hands,
in
like
my
just to
hands.
give you that little bit of a carrot, right? So
I mean, that was what's. I'm not a layout person. I'm learning how to do layout, but I by no means consider myself a very good layout person. But when I did the layout, when I was working on layout for Drifters, I was thinking like, I
mm-hmm,
know I'm gonna eventually print this thing. So, because
mm-hmm.
exactly like I'm a sucker for print. I like holding it in my hands. And so like I was like, I just want to work on this enough so that it looks good. That when I hold it in my hands, I'm gonna be happy with what I've got like printed in
Yeah,
my hands.
that is
Uh,
so cool.
and so I did like chip away at it. It was like it was my nightly wind down. So like I'd be working during the day on stuff, and then at like night I'd be like, let me just move things around in an Affinity for 30 minutes, and then that just slowly
Mhm.
got the process done.
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
Yeah, it worked. It worked. I'm happy with it. Um, Although you've you've shattered that by sending me something very
Oh
no,
no.
I don't mean like shattered by I mean you sent me something very cool that maybe we'll be able to show soon.
Oh yeah,
Um
sure, sure. Yeah, yeah.
um I was thinking before this as I was making my coffee, I was like, so when did I like meet you or when did we meet each other? I think like we met probably during the Vibe Checks play test. Like that's the like
Right,
meeting
right.
in terms of like
Yeah, yeah.
any kind of like
Yeah.
video.
Yeah. I remember being in that video being like, "Oh my gosh, I'm with the person who took on the Warframe gamers. I'm a little like intimidated right now."
You could see the dead eyes, my dead eyes, be like, that guy's seen some shit.
Yeah, yeah, that was technically when we met. It was super fun playtesting Vibe Check. That was really, really cool. Yeah, and I remember first seeing I have to admit, I mean my memories are kind of holy, uh like full of lots of cheese holes, but I think I first came across your stuff when the gamers came after
Oh
you.
yeah,
I think that was it.
that's
And
the
then
vast
Josh was
majority
talking
of
about
people.
how cool your Destiny game was. No, 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 no. I remember it was a season pass. That's when I first.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember the timeline super well, but I remember like going like, someone's doing a season pass. That is like super, super interesting. So
I keep telling myself I'm done with light, and then like last night, but I was like, oh, but what if I did this? And now it's like in my
I saw
head.
that tweet.
I can't
Yeah,
escape
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. There's some
I
games.
just
Yeah.
need Bungie to be like, you have our blessing to just go wild with this, and we promise we will never be angry at you. And if they do that, then I will truly just be like, my whole life is now making light. Uh, but there's always that fear of like, if I go too far, if I try and make this too cool and beyond our little bubble of indie RPG people, the gamers will find
Mm-hmm.
me again. And I do not want to be
Yeah.
found.
I don't know. Like gamers are like, and I say this as someone who loves to play video games, but
Right.
there's a capital G gamers, right? Like there's
Right.
just a set of them that are like way back when people were like complaining about the Mass Effect 3 ending. I was already like,
Mm.
these, yeah, it's ridiculous. But basically, I haven't quite taken on a video game yet, but even like when I took on because I do like drawing inspiration from a lot of things. So Apocalypse Keys was really inspired by Hellboy,
Yeah.
and Once More Into the Void was inspired by Mass Effect and Picard. Yeah, so one of my favorite things is like that translation from the inspiration
Yeah.
into what this game is, into what I want it to be, but also making space for whatever the players want it to be. So that nebulous Venn diagram
Yeah.
that I'm trying to. aim for. So I did this recently. I'm working on a Lumen game. You might have heard of the Lumen system.
I've heard of it. It seems okay. I managed to get it up on the shelf, so I guess it's all right. I guess I
Yeah,
care.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's super cool. It's super cool. And so I started working on a game that was really inspired by Evolve, the video game. I really
Hell
it was
yeah.
such a good game. It's such a good game. Like what do they call it? But basically one player plays as the monster, this huge colossal monster, and then everyone else plays like these planet tamers, these hunters.
Right.
So I've been working on it because I wanted to try working on a tactical game. Because I get a lot of weird comments. I get a lot of like, "Oh, Ray, you're a story gamer and story designer, so I'm sure you don't like,
You
you
don't get
know,
tactics, or you don't like them.
yeah, yeah." They're like, "I'm sure you haven't played D&D," and I'm like, "Excuse me, I played D&D fourth edition for like several years." Um, and I started with Star Wars Saga Edition, so it's
Mm,
really bizarre, like this divide that people place between story games and tactical games and combat and stuff like
yeah.
that. So I really just wanted to try my hand at it, and so it feels very fourth editiony. Really, it feels very D&D fourth edition. There are very clear roles. Yeah, it was. But as I was working in the game, it was really interesting how I was like describing the planet tamers, describing how they've come to like eradicate the monsters for the sake of the conquerors. But as I was writing it, it became more and more post-colonial
Mm.
angry because I'm from the Philippines.
Right.
Um, I have very strong post-colonial feelings. And I was like, where is this coming from? And the game started to get more and more intense and dark and really gritty. And so it's been really fun. We got to play test it for a few sessions. I dragged Josh into it because Josh is like, I have dragged Josh into almost every single because he's so priceless as a playtester. He's so good as a playtester. So
Right?
he's so good. So I just there's like a permanent spot for Josh if I can manage it. But yeah, but it's been super fun. It's been really exciting. And it was that same space where I'm trying to pull on Evolve and what I love about
Mm,
it, but there are my post-colonial feelings,
yeah.
but at the same time I want the game to be open to the tactical fun that people want to have, like taking on a monster. So it's been really good. It's been super, super good.
I'm super curious, like how I can't wait to see how this works because, you know, I only played a little bit of Evolved. It it didn't explode the way that I think the game probably should have, and it's also one of those games that like
Yeah,
once there's no audience, like the game will
that's it.
die because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
you need
The AI and the bots aren't enough. Yeah, yeah.
right. So like I'm really curious how it will translate or what you'll be doing with translating it to Lumen just because like you've got like the the monster, right? Like that's the thing that everybody's fighting, and then everybody else is. I'm assuming that's like run by the GM,
Hmm,
and then
hmm.
everybody else are the hunters of sorts. Um, I'm trying to think of other Lumen games that have done that where it's mostly just like the one baddie sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's been the struggle. Like I really, because like in a lot of tactical games, like D&D 4E had the same problem where they had solo monsters, but it would be difficult. Like you would still need to put in minions and things like that. You'd
Mm-hmm.
have to be, as a GM, you'd have to be smart about what the zones look like, what the landscape look like. So I've been working on that, and the way that I built the monsters. So in Evolve, they introduce different monsters. So I'm gonna do a season pass situation where
Yes.
I want to introduce different monsters each time. So we're starting with like a juggernaut, like kind of like, Godzilla situation. Um, and basically I'm trying to design the monster to be able to like run itself because like the
Mm.
GM has both the monster to run and the colony ship that that the hunters are trying to save, and the fucked up colony ship, the stuff that's going on there. And
Gotcha.
so it is so funny because like I was like, I'm gonna make, they roll a d6 to see what pops up at every round
Mm.
to assist the monster. And so I put in like the GM has to roll a 12 to get the Void Titan to show up. And I remember rolling, going like, we'll see. It's hard to get a 12. I got the Void Titan on the first round.
Yes.
And I got a Void Titan on almost every first round on every phase we were fighting
Oh my
the
God.
monster.
Some magic dice you have there.
No, and it's kind of why I don't like that's that's why I gravitate to PBTA and stuff because
Mm,
like as a GM, I roll really mercilessly. Like when I was running D&D, I had to fudge my rolls. I had to like have a screen and be like, "Dang, they missed. I guess
right.
nothing happens." And there are like 6 crits behind the GM screen. Like,
Oh well.
yeah, I guess you guys pummel them, like
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, basically. So, but yeah, I tend to roll too well as a GM. I don't have that as a player. I want to point that out. It
right.
doesn't happen as a player.
It's yeah, I'm because the one other Lumen game that jumps to my mind as one that does the single boss really well is Monster Guts, that Danielle made. It's a Monster Hunter Lumen game,
Mm-mm.
so it is
Right,
like the idea of
right.
like one, and it goes through like phases and stuff like that, very much like in a Monster Hunter game where the monster, like once you do a certain amount of damage, it goes to the next phase and sort of like new
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
things happen. Um,
mm-hmm.
so it's totally doable. I'm really, really, really excited about this, and I think
Yeah.
you will have more people playing your game than Evolve. That's going to be my prediction, that there will be a bigger
We'll
player
see.
base.
We'll see. We'll see. That's so sad, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, and I'm just looking at the chat and like I do want to give a shout out to the land shark monster that kept popping up in our games. I was so happy every time that shark came out. Like it was a Dark Sun nod. I love that ridiculous like land shark that would
Hell
show up.
yeah. It just kept
But
showing up.
also yeah, it was great. I got to be like rah rah rah. I had to resist the every time I'm a monster to be like, yeah, the sharks go nah nah. Um, but yeah, and Anka was saying, how do you avoid the thing where the players just surrounding the monster to all four
Mm,
sides and kick it to death? Yeah, that was like super difficult. I had to make the monster super mobile and keep
mm,
moving and keep throwing things around and also making it difficult for the players to move, but I couldn't make it too hard so that the players feel bad, right? So
right.
that's the current thing that's happening. Sam Zimmerman is going to help me out with some consultation, which I'm excited about. The game works really well, but like I just need to fine tune some of the abilities and how it feels. But yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I could talk
S-
about the game forever because there's so much tactical stuff, but like it's super super fun.
I mean, I'm super down. I'm super excited for this. Dang. I mean, spoiler alert to people at home. I did know that Ray was working on a Lumen game before before this stream. And I do remember when you sent me like the pitch when you were talking about it, I was just like, "Well, this is awesome." But then you sent me your like the doc that you had been working on. I was like, "Oh, this is like," because I truly was just like, "Okay, yeah, it's gonna be kind of like Monster Hunter sort of thing." And then I saw everything that you had like sort of brought to the game that evolved it. Ha ha ha.
Good one, good
Very
one.
good. The coffee is kicking in. That
Nice,
like
nice.
this game is gonna be very, very cool. Very, very good. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And it also has I already got some initial art from Jan Butler and they're just amazing.
Jan
It's
does
so it's
incredible
so cool
work.
working with an artist. Yeah, Jan is like really, really, really good work. And so it's been super, super fun.
Well, I remember
Yeah, I'm
they were teasing that art a
mhm,
long
mhm.
time ago and being like, "This is for a thing." And I'm like, "What is this thing? What is this very cool art for?" And then you were like, "Oh, I've hired Jan to make stuff." I'm like, "Is this what the art was for?"
Yeah, only the only reason Jan didn't say the name because I'm super fine with people talking about
Mm,
whatever I'm working on. It's just that I don't know if I'm going to call the game Evolution
yeah.
because it's hard to. And I know you just released an awesome game that has a one-word title, but and you tend to do that, Slayers, Drifters. Now that I think about it,
Uh-huh.
but
Horrible
like
SEO.
right, that's the problem, right? Like I'm already fighting against the itch.io discoverability problem.
Right.
So I'm like, if I call it evolution, it's not gonna. I don't know what to call it. Naming games is so so difficult. So yeah, real struggle.
I truly most of my games looking up thinking about them are single words that are not very unique at all, like dust, light. You're like, well, how are you supposed to find this? Especially
But
if
it's
you
very
search like
dramatic. Very
light
cool.
RPG, you're gonna get a bunch of people talking about like rules light RPGs, and you're like, no, that's not what I
Yeah.
mean. I mean
Yeah.
my game, which is a rules light
Right.
RPG called Light. Um, I don't
No, but
plan ahead at
I figured
all.
out your trick. I figured out your trick, Spencer. Your trick is to win awards,
Ah,
right? So that a lot of people are talking about it, and then it's easier to find slayers and stuff, right?
yes, that's always been my long-term scheme and strategy is to win the awards. You figured me out. It's
Right,
you
right,
simply, as Adam says, you simply win an award, and it is done.
right, right, right. And then step two, win an award. Step three, profit, right? So,
I guess that's how it works. Now I just have to do that every single year so I can keep
yeah,
up this
no
scheme,
pressure.
right?
No pressure.
That's the problem. Is now I'm going to be disappointed in myself in the future at some point. I have to like come to
No.
accept the fact that like you're not gonna always be amazing. Um,
No, no. I find that hard to believe. I think you're just at the beginning, Spencer. So,
gasp.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's just gonna get cooler. Which is another thing I love about Itch.io and the game designers is I love seeing all of us just keep working
Mm,
on our games and coming back to them and iterating them. Like Josh's Extra Causal, which is another good game everyone should
yeah.
check out. Right. Yeah, it's just really fun seeing people go back and keep growing as designers. Like, yeah, for sure, for sure. It's a lot of fun.
Well, it's just like a lot of us all started doing this around 1 to 2 years ago. Or I noticed there's like a large cohort of us that all started around the
Mm,
pandemic
mhm,
times. We're like, well, I guess I'm
mhm,
gonna start
mhm.
doing this now. Um, so I feel like there is sort of like a a like a class of us that have like got like started indie RPG design school together, and like we've seen each other evolve in a bit in a way to, over the last 2 years or so, which is very, very
Mhm,
cool. Like
mhm.
I feel like most of the people I hang out with and talk to are people who are like, yeah, I just kind of started doing this like a year or two ago, and I just fell in love with it. I'm like, that's what happened to me
Yeah,
too. Now that
right. So much
um,
fun. And I think like it's amazing that so many people have been able to be so creative,
mm,
right, during the panini of all things. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, 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 yeah. Most of us are just trying to survive, but the fact that we can thrive in this little space,
right.
right, is really cool, really cool.
There's a place to find like a cool glimmer of excitement and hope in it all, and it's online. To the internet we go. That's where we'll find our hope. um,
True, true, true.
oh, cool. Thank you, Josh, for throwing Jan's link in there. That is awesome to help out because yeah, amazing art, truly incredible stuff. Oh my God, yeah, Riley, you're an ancient person. You've been doing this for 3 years. Ancient.
Ancient, ancient.
You're one of the
I started,
vets.
yeah, I started with the Sad Mecha Jam. That was my
Mm,
start. So there was a whole bunch of us of the Sad Mecha Jam, but I think Riley started before that. So like, yeah. So there are these waves
mm-hmm.
of us Itch.io designers, which is super super fun. But yeah.
Right. I think I also quote unquote met, and met is not like the right word, but like started to find people because my first game was a Zine Quest game, like Zine Quest 2.
Ooh,
So like the last Zine
interesting.
Quest was Zine Quest 3, right? I didn't do that.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I did the
Mhm.
Zine Quest before that. That was my first game that came out. And so like
Mhm.
I was learning about a bunch of indie RPG designers because I
Wow.
was just looking through Zine Quest and I was like, what are other
Mhm.
people doing? And like, why do their pages look so good compared to mine? uh, and that was how I started learning about people. Like I had been sitting on this game for forever, and I was like, well, I'll never make it happen. And then I learned about Zine Quest. I was like, I'm gonna just finally do
Yeah.
the damn thing.
Just go for it. Yeah.
Um, so I feel like a lot of people that I, again, like quote unquote, met were because of Not again, I wasn't interacting with him in any way, but I was like looking through the window, being like, "Wow, your stuff is so cool. I want to learn from you." I'm the
I think
sickos
that's
through the
what
window.
it's like, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
it's just like, wow, your games are so cool. Like I love your games. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, starting with Zine Quest is Brave. Yeah, I think Brave were just
It
like
is.
foolhardy because I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how any of this works, so we'll find out, I
Right.
suppose.
Yeah.
I was
So cool, so
I
cool.
will say that at least with Zine Quest, I didn't do it alone. I had my good friend Mike
Mm.
who did like the art
Hmm.
and layout for Dust, and he's doing it for the Almanac. He did
Nice.
the layout for Score, so I knew like, oh, okay, I'm working with somebody that I know. I'm not doing this by my because if I tried to do it by myself, it would have been a disaster. So it was helpful to have somebody there as part of the learning experience.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Very cool.
Oh yeah. I just saw Anko in the chat.
Hmm.
Working as an editor for Paizo's SRD. Yeah.
Mm.
And doing your own adventures. It'd be so cool if you did your own game too, though. That would be, yeah, really, really awesome. I love making all these games.
Mm.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think like someone once asked me like, why do you play test so much? And I'm like, well, number one, I like play testing, and number two, I made this game so I could play it. So
Yeah. Exactly.
right.
I've learned I what I've discovered now is like besides playtesting, I want to do a recorded like actual play stream of all my games because then I can at least guarantee I will play the
Yeah.
game because
Yeah.
I so rarely get to play in general, let alone
Mm-hmm.
play my stuff. So like that's why we played Drifters yesterday. It's like I haven't actually had a chance to play this with people. I would like to do that now.
Yeah.
And I will use the excuse of marketing as the reason to get my friends together and play it with me.
And
Um,
you get to put the video on your itch page. Yeah, it's
yeah.
super cool. It's super cool.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
it's interesting the idea of like motivation to start your own actual game and stuff like that. I feel like there's been a couple of different conversations or people talking about like getting started. Like I feel like I've seen that as a thing that people have
Mm.
been talking about recently. Like Bats put
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
video up the other day about like 5 ways to make money in TTRPGs. I don't know if you saw Bats's video.
Ooh. Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been
They
meaning
did,
to watch it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the Wizards and the Waste book and everything. And
Mhm.
I think it was super helpful. And what I love about that is that everybody's comments are about how good the sweater looks. Bats has like the coolest looking sweater in the world, and they're like, "How dare
Oh,
you post this
now I
video
really need to watch it.
and now tell us where we can get that sweater? Because I'm gonna make money off of TTRPGs. You've just taught me how to do that. I'm gonna use said money to buy that sweater."
Excellent, excellent.
But like Bats did a video, and I know Sam Sam Lay, who's been doing like the TikTok,
Mm,
like the
yeah.
has become like the indie TTRPG TikTok person. Did a
Nice,
thing on
nice.
like getting started on it. So it is cool seeing like a
Mhm.
refreshing conversation about getting started because I don't know, it's different for everybody, like different how you get into
Yeah,
the
there's so many
process.
avenues, so many ways to get started. And I feel like just the more people we have making games, the better it's going to be
Mm,
for the games in general, right?
yeah.
Like just seeing all these different voices. Because I mean, as much as I obviously still love mainstream games, I still play a lot of them, but there tends to be like a kind of same voicey quality
Mm, mm-hmm.
about them compared to the indie scene. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can open up itch, go to the physical games, and you're gonna see one thing wildly different than the thing right next to it on those charts. You just keep going down the line. You're like, oh, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, and it's super
Right,
super
right.
cool.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah, Aaron mentions the idea of like having itch as a easy to set up platform to host games, game jams, and things like that has been really big in terms of
Super
finding
helpful.
other people and stuff like that
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
It's super cool. So, um, you're working on evolution, name pending. That's
Name
one
pending,
thing
name
that you've
pending.
got going on. Um, layout, which for Vibe Check, which you did, also recently came out. What
Hmm.
else are you cooking up right now? Because you say you're doing like 12 things every single day. Is there? Can
Yeah,
we get
yeah.
a peek at some of it, or not like a literal peek,
Sure.
but
Yeah, yeah. So I mentioned Apocalypse Keys, which is my
mm,
Powered by the Apocalypse game of monsters working for the Division, holding back the apocalypse, solving mysteries. So that's in final draft form. It's I've been working Apocalypse Keys like almost constantly for 2 years. So this is going to be the longest break as an editor. Spends at least the next 2 months going over it. So
wow. How long did it
that's
end
really
up being?
cool.
I remember you mentioning it the other day. I can't
Uh,
remember.
I hit around 116,000 words or
Damn,
something.
that's a lot of words. It's many
Yeah,
words on a
yeah.
page.
When it gets printed, it's gonna be like a weapon that you can use that book, or a doorstop or weapon, whatever you'd like to use it for.
You never
So,
know. I mean, somebody
um,
you can quickly change from one to the other.
right, right. So Apocalypse Keys ended up being super, super chunky. It's the biggest game I've ever worked on. Like when I think about my first game being this like 4 pager, and then now we hear it like it almost hit 350 pages on the Google Doc was dying. The Google Doc was like, please stop
What are you
searching.
doing?
Please stop doing Control F. I will not cooperate with you. So there's that. I've also been working on Once More Into the Void, which
Mm,
is this Firebrands game. So I got to I'm applying some of the really cool feedback that we got from Avery Alder on it. So that's really it's so wild to me that I get to say like, yeah, I worked on a game with
that's
Avery Alder. I don't
super
know.
cool.
I still remember like playing Dream Askew for the first time in Monster Hearts. Like I cannot get over this idea of me playing TTRPGs, and I never thought I would make one,
Mm,
right? And it's just it's so still getting used to it. Aside from that, I'm working on a couple of Brinkwood games because I
mm.
have this unfortunate habit where if I love a game so much, I will make a fan game for it. And I made two for Brinkwood. That's how much I love Brinkwood.
I've
So
got it up on the shelf.
uh
I'm dying to play it. I'm dying to
it's
play
so
it.
good.
It
It's so good.
I like read it in like one day, two sittings sort of things. Where I like read it. I was like, I should
Oh
eat
my
food, and
gosh.
then I read it some more. I was like, it was so
Yeah, it's one
good.
of my top 5 games. Like, and I've had some of the best campaigns with Brinkwood. It's so, so good. So I made a Brinkwood Refuge game, which focuses on life in the refuge. So it's a belonging outside belonging game. It's meant to be much slower and simpler and sweeter, but it's also like a little sad, maybe. So, and then I also worked on Brinkwood Despair. I'm actually working on it with Josh, so that's super cool.
Nice.
And so Brinkwood Despair is based on Trophy Dark, and it's the exact
Mm,
opposite of Brinkwood Refuge. It's basically the prequel about the Fays losing the forest of the
mm,
vampires, and you know what's so I briefly have to say what's so interesting about that is I basically took the mechanics from Trophy Dark. I changed the smallest thing.
yeah.
Like everything else mechanically is intact. I just made it slightly easier to get corruption or what is ruin in the
Right.
original game, and that's it. And but people responded to the mechanics completely differently. So in Trophy Dark, there's this they know that they're playing to lose and they know they're playing horrible treasure hunters going
Right.
into forests that they shouldn't. But there's still a lot of like, no, I won't use a ritual. No, it's okay. No, I'm still gonna
Mm,
try my best. But in Brinkwood Despair, they're playing as Fey Guardians that are just trying to buy time
mm.
before the forest falls and the magic is destroyed and the vampires take over. So they're just trying to do what they can to preserve the treasures and help people escape. And so there's more of a tendency for the players to be like making grandstands like, I will use this ritual, I will use this magic. Doesn't matter how corrupt I become, this is for the greater good. Right. And
Whoa.
so it becomes way more tragic because they're really like facing the horror and the despair head on. And because there's this sense of
I mean,
like,
it's in the name right there, despair. I
yeah,
think you're cueing people in. Like, all right, get yourself
right.
set.
But I remember just being so shocked. I was like, I didn't change anything about the mechanics. And like, just from the premise, people are like responding to it so, so, so differently. And so since then, when I playtest games, I really don't look at just playtesting the mechanics because I know people will respond to it differently depending on
Mm.
so many of the setting factors, right, and the premise factors. So instead, I try to play test the whole thing from like beginning to end instead.
I'm so the opposite with how I play test. I do what's called the danger room, which is I go in and I simulate absurd situations to see if the game can hold up with it, and then I move on to another small danger room. Uh,
Which is still super valid though, but
I think it's
I
mostly
was
because I
just so
make
blown
things that are
away
about
by
like
that time.
fighting. That is so
Yeah.
cool. That sounds really cool. I have always enjoyed playing Trophy Dark. I've only played it a couple
Yeah, it's so
times,
great.
but like each time I've played it has been very
Super fun, yeah.
cool. It's a great like one shot sort of thing. So like
Hmm.
playing it
Hmm.
in the realm of Brinkwood with the setting of like the Fae holding back the vampires is like best they can.
Hmm.
Give it to me.
So
I want
good.
to play that so bad.
Yeah. So Josh and I are working on that. I'm so excited. It's been super fun. There's already a version of it that's available up on itch, but it'll go to the backers first. Refuge is pretty much done. We're just in the editing phase. Yeah, and then aside from that, let's see. Our haunt was done,
Mm.
and I'm also working on like I have this really scary Milo note that just has everything. Oh, I'm also working with Void Walkers. You and I love the word void.
God, it's just
So
immediately I'm 1,000 times more likely to engage with, buy, play anything that has the word void in it.
right. So that's been super fun. Void Walkers is my love letter to like Star Wars and Firefly and all those things. But I actually made the game a bit too epic. Like in playtests, the players were just like 100 times more awesome than I thought they would be.
Mm,
So I have to recalibrate how I talk about the game, which is a really fun problem to have.
sure.
I've also been working with Bullock Bayan, so I really want to update because I've been moving towards a 2.0 beta, and I'd really like to share it online. I also have Never Break the Chain. I listen to way too much Fleetwood Mac I have like when I really need to work on a game and things are not flowing, I put on this specific album from Fleetwood Mac.
Really?
Oh my gosh, my brain is fritzing. What is it called? I'm going to. It's not even like it's like from the 80s. That particular one.
I will not be able to
Gosh,
help
it's
you at all with this. I don't. Adam Bell is saying rumors?
no, not even. It's Tango in the Night. I'm so embarrassed to say this on stream, but
Uh,
but Tango in the Night, I listen to the that album obsessively. So I have like designed scary horror games and really intense drama games to like Seven Wonders and
mm,
Everywhere. And Little Lies is good though. So, you know. But yeah,
I
I play that on repeat.
I can't listen to music with any kind of lyrics when I design. Like I can't do it. It
Gosh.
doesn't distract you. It doesn't.
Okay, so this is what I look like. I'm like typing furiously, and then lately I've been listening to a lot of Auto Heart and uh Bleachers, right? So I'm just like typing, and then I'll just start screaming the lyrics like for a minute,
Okay.
and then I go back to typing.
All
Yeah, so
right.
I just go into so the thing is what happens is because I listen to this music all the time, the moment the music starts, my brain goes into we are entering design mode. Like it just
You're
yeah,
activating it.
yeah. Yeah. So during my vacation, I couldn't listen to the music because I'd listen to music and my brain would go, "We are starting to No, we're on vacation."
Just
So
immediately flashing back to you in front of the computer, like, no, no, I'm not there.
no, it happened today. I was listening to Auto Heart and then I just started designing alternative covers for drifters without realizing what I was doing. And my partner was like, "Hey, you're working." I was like, oh, "No, I was just listening to music.
I swear I'm
I
not.
I don't. I was possessed by the god of design. I don't know what is going on."
Oh my God.
So
You're like a sleeper agent who's like the word has been activated and you're just like, I have to go now.
yeah, sometimes the worst thing that happens is I go to sleep and I wake up and I find myself in mid thought of a
Mm,
design thing. Like I realized I was designing in my head.
wow.
Um,
In your sleep?
and I yeah,
Yeah.
I find myself with my phone typing in what I was thinking, and I was like, what's going on?
Yeah. I definitely have my phone ready to write things down because they always happen right before I fall asleep. I'm in that like
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
semi lucid state, and then like I like sit up and I write something down. My partner now knows what is happening, and she's like, "You got an idea?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got an idea." Write it down, and then I go back to sleep. Because I used to like not write it down. I used to convince myself that I'll remember this in the morning. What a fool I was. What a fool I was. I
Yeah,
would
it
never
never
remembered it.
happens. It never happens. Yeah, yeah. It's just it's so sad. It's so I've heard Daniel Kwan,
Mm.
like when he's working on a D&D adventure, he will like there was one time I know of at least where he started sleep GMing his partner. like, like he was like, "What are you going to do about the zombies?" And his partner's like, "What?
What are you
Are
gonna
you
do?
dreaming?"
Wow. Daniel got
Yeah, yeah. So
really
that's
into it.
wild. That's wild. That's wild. But yeah. Oh my gosh, I got completely off track. I was trying to say that the game I'm working on is Never Break the Chain, which is a game inspired by Fleetwood Mac and all of the dramatic shenanigans,
Mm,
except this is a Ray game. So they are gods on the verge of death. And so they only survive age from age because now they're rock stars, right? And so
mm,
the idea is like, can you continue to survive, on this fame, feed off of it while trying to not destroy each other as a band? And so this is inspired by Jay Dragon, who worked on Midnight Oil, which is a dark academia game that Jay is working on, which is inspired by Apocalypse Keys. So there's this weird Ouroboros
yeah.
of like inspiration, which is really, really super interesting. So yeah, it's an iteration of Apocalypse Keys, of Midnight Oil, of another game. So
That's really, really cool. You got a lot of stuff you're working on. You got a lot of cool things. But it all
yeah,
sounds super fun.
yeah,
It all sounds
yeah.
really cool.
Oh, I even forgot to mention Twilight Throne. Wow, there's a lot. But Twilight Throne is the Forge in the Dark political intrigue game I'm working on, of surreal magic and tragic intimacy. That's the one I worked on the most last year.
Mm,
With Apocalypse Keys, after I submitted the first draft before the playtest, and Sean told me, okay, we'll come back to you in 2 weeks. Like, Avery will
right.
work on stuff. And I was like, okay, so in 2 weeks I put together this Forge in the Dark game because I didn't know how to relax.
What else are you gonna
and
do?
then and I've just been playtesting that the whole year. So once again, Josh was dragged into the playtest. And I had like about 3 groups going. We are currently at 50 plus playtest sessions for that game. So yeah,
Damn.
it's wild. It's wild because it's Forged in the Dark, and it's like, and I
Yeah.
shot myself in the foot because I built these instead of crew sheets, you have thrones, and I
Mm,
built in narrative arc that's supposed to have an end. So I had to test
right.
if the arc would work and the end would work, and I was like, why did I do this?
Oh no. Oh no.
It seemed like such a good idea at the time.
I mean, that is true with like Forge in the Dark games. Like they're an engine that like you got to get it going. Like it has to like it can be a little slow at
Yeah,
first, and then like once all the gears start
exactly.
moving, it's a really cool
Yeah.
machine, but it takes
And then
time
you
to
have
get
to
there.
see the machine bits,
Yeah.
right? Like, and then you have to fine tune. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm working on. So
Gotcha.
50 plus sessions in, and I'm still discovering new things that I need to tweak
Wow.
and move around. Yeah. But I love it. I love it so much. It's one of my it was another challenge to myself because political social intrigue is a little hard to pull off in TTRPGs, in my
Mm,
experience, right?
mm-hmm.
I just haven't come across a game that's really nailed it. So I'm trying to do a version of it that's really fun. So yeah, yeah.
Neat. That sounds so cool.
Yeah, I promise those are just most of the projects. Everything else is just smaller stuff. So
Sure, sure. Whatever you say, Ray. Very believable.
I promise, I promise. So
I mean, it sounds cool. I mean, if you've got a bunch of cool projects like that, I understand that you're like bouncing around from one to the next. You're like, this is fun, but oh my God, I forgot about this very fun thing that I'm working on, and also this very fun thing that I'm working on.
yeah, yeah. So my problem is trying to not come up with a new game idea, right?
Mm,
Like sometimes I'll be watching. I haven't watched Godzilla versus King Kong until now because every time I start watching it, I go like, this would be a game
I
where
will
there are
make
phases,
right.
right? Where you start out as the humans, and then there's a phase where you get to play as the monsters fighting each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then see what I mean? I've only made it 50 minutes in. That's as far as I got with Godzilla versus King
You
Kong, which
had to
kills
stop
me.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. All right. Very cool. You gotta watch it at some point. You gotta watch those monsters
I
fight each
know.
other.
No, what needs to happen is someone needs to make that game so I don't have to make it anymore. That's what happens,
Free you from
right?
that, and then you can
Yeah,
you
yeah. Because
you
for a
say
long
that,
time I was like,
but somebody will make it. You'll read it. You'll be like, yeah, that's good, but how would I do it? And then it'll happen. It'll
no, don't curse me, Spencer. Like, I'm trying to- No, because like, for a while I could watch My Hero Academia because I was like, there's masks. I don't
mm,
need to think about superhero teen game. But in the latest seasons, I've been like, mm, there's this way that
mm.
can't quite do this in masks. So I stopped watching. That's how
Wow.
bad it got.
Damn. Wow. I Masks is a void in my like TTRPG knowledge. Like I've never even read
Oh,
Masks. I've so
really?
obviously I've not played it as well. And I know
Yeah,
BLG Brandon, who was here earlier, I don't know if he's still listening, but he's a huge Masks fan. And I
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
like
yeah. Brandon has so many great mask ideas and like talks about masks really well
yeah.
and is in a lot of like actual plays. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I gotta I don't know, at some point I gotta read it. But like I mean, this is gonna be
Yeah,
another
I
game
feel
that I
like it's
read and then don't play.
essential. No, it's I feel like so you know how Apocalypse World is like key PBTA, right? Of that
Right.
first wave, and then there's a few others like that I think like Masks is one that kicked off another huge wave,
Mm,
right? And so a lot of like great ideas stemming from where PPTA is headed now came from masks because things like
mm,
conditions, influence, the moment of truth, like it was just, it's getting to a point where just because like indie gaming keeps pushing forward so much, right?
right.
It's getting to a point where like masks is like a little creaky in the joints,
Oh
maybe.
wow.
Oh my gosh, please don't come for me, mask people. Oh my gosh, I still love the game, but
You've doomed us both. This channel is doomed. This bot is doomed. We are doomed.
but like it's super interesting because one of the most fun things about masks is you feel like a volatile teenager because your labels, your stats
Mm.
are moving constantly. So, yeah, I think it's worth trying it out,
I gotta I feel like I
Spencer.
have to
Like,
at least read it because I truly don't think
mm-mm.
I after you describing it, I obviously don't know anything about this game because me being wildly ignorant about it, just assumed it was another Powered by the Apocalypse game. So I was like, okay, I understand how PBTA works, and but now you're telling me that it's got all these cool other fun like buttons and levers and stuff, and
Yeah.
like has a whole
Yeah.
has sparked like a new wave of like wave thinking about PBTA. Maybe that's going to be the thing
Yeah.
that gets me to go back and look at it now. That sounds cool.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Like you can directly trace a lot of the newer stuff to masks, right?
Hmm.
So in the same way, like I didn't play Apocalypse Road for a long time, and then when I finally did, I was like, oh, I can
I get
see
it.
where all this stuff was coming from, and like, right?
Yeah.
And there's where I could see the Vestige tale in some
Mm-hmm.
current PPTA games that started with Apocalypse World, which
Yeah.
is really interesting. Yeah, yeah. So, but I tend to be like that. I play so many games. I'm much better now. I only play about 4 games a week, but I was up to 8 games a week at some point. So,
I'm jealous that you even get 4 a week. That is that's my true void in my life is that I'm not playing games anymore. And I think that's why I just keep designing them because it's like this is the only way I'm scratching this itch for me right now. We used to in the before
mhm.
times when things were good. ev-
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Every Sunday we had
Mhm.
what we called dungeon brunch. And we would get together at my friend's house, who lives nearby, and we would just a bunch of us who were around Chicago, and we'd all bring something for brunch. and we would play a different RPG, or we would do
Hmm.
like a little mini arc of an RPG. So we were rotating through
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah.
It was
Right, right.
awesome. I loved it. I was learning about a bunch of new games, playing a bunch of new games, and then like obviously that stopped. uh, so I miss it.
Yeah. I play a lot of online stuff though. I started to get more games in when I played online.
Yeah.
So, especially from like the Gauntlet, like it's a community
Mm.
um where I was signing up for too many games at first. Like it was yeah, yeah. But so mainly the Gauntlet at first, but nowadays I just have like different groups and I tend to have like similar-ish the same group and then we go through different games. Yeah, yeah, but it's hard to set that up. I
Yeah.
understand. So,
Well,
yeah.
I'm a notoriously shy person most of the time. Most of the time, I'm extremely introverted.
Hmm.
I don't
I
like,
feel like it's a designer thing a lot of the time. Yeah.
yeah. So like me doing this is very cool, but also like mentally exhausting. Like after this, I'm going to be like, now I will not
Mm,
talk to anybody for the rest of the day, and I will be good. So like the idea of like trying to set up an online game with people that I
uh,
don't know is
yeah.
terrifying to me. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely yeah, my brain has been getting really bad with the panini stuff. So like in the
Mm,
last year I can only play with people I know and games that I'm semi familiar with. Like yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it. But
like
yeah,
even
it's
with this show, like I pitched it as like I want to talk to my friends, like people that I know or I've interacted with in
mhm.
some way in the scene, so that I like at least would come into this like with a like okay, I'm familiar with you sort of thing. And so many people reached out like I'm interested. I'm like I will put you on the list, but I don't like know you yet. Like I will eventually talk to you, but I have to like work up the courage to like allow myself to do that. And I'm like warming up by talking
Oh,
to people
yeah.
that I know, quote
Right, right,
unquote.
right. Yeah, yeah. I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, for sure. I also want to point out in the chat. So you're saying that people who like to design frameworks for structured conversation, dot dot. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, I really. It's the sign of the introvert. Yeah, yeah, but like I also tend to. So when I play my online games, I get super strict about like it's only 3 hours,
Mm,
and we take a break at the top of every hour for 10 minutes. Because if I don't have that regular break, my introvert is like
yeah.
starts to and I don't have that in face to face. Like in face to face, even if you take a break, you're still hanging out with people. You're
Yeah,
still
right.
seeing yeah, versus like online I get to shut off the camera and then like for 10 minutes reset. Yeah, yeah. But I need to have like this very specific set of rituals to help
Mm.
get through my introverted nature. But I feel you. I feel you. It takes a lot of social energy.
Well, I've also just been like I've been reassessing sort of like what a session of a role-playing game like what my ideal session of a role-playing game looks like, and it
Mm.
is
Mm.
different than when I started. Because like when I started,
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
thought of it as it's got to be like 4 hours, because like
Right.
with the early APs that were hitting the internet, like besides Critical Role, like most of them were doing four
Right.
hour sessions. You take
Yeah.
like a break on the hour or like
Mm-hmm.
halfway, and I was like, I guess that's how it's done. And so that's how I did it, and it was fun because it was with friends. It was like grad school friends, so it was totally fine. But like
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, the idea of doing a 4 hour session, even with my closest friends, sounds like a nightmare.
No. No.
So like to me, like an RPG session that's an hour long or like an hour and a
Yeah.
half feels
That should work.
amazing. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, especially for the games you make and the games you're right? Like I feel like a Lumen game you can fit really nicely. I was doing that. I was running Trophy Gold for like an hour and a half,
Mm,
and I experimented with that and it fit because like the rules were so light. It was so easy to just be like, we're just gonna do one area for an hour, hour and a half, and that's it. And we'll see
right.
each other again next week. Right. So
And I think that like because I did try to do another. I tried like 2 months ago to get another like online campaign going with friends, and like it was a Blades in the Dark campaign, and it
mm,
was like they were these longer sessions because the players wanted to kind of like do the whole thing and like get the engine up and running, and I was like, I can't do it. Can we figure out how to break blades into like 1 hour segments? Because I just can't sit there for three
Yeah.
hours and play blades as much as I enjoy
Yeah.
running and playing blades.
Right. Right. You know,
So
what's helping with my Blades game is we do a lot of stuff on Discord.
mm,
So we do the gather information and we do the setup on Discord and then we do the entanglements
oh, that's a
on
brilliant idea.
Discord.
That's such a
Yeah, so
good
we
idea.
only do like the score when we meet each other, and then we do the downtime like in another session. So it's only the score for you can do the score for 1 hour, and then you
Yeah.
do the downtime session for an hour, and then all the other stuff is on Discord.
I
Like,
love that idea of like off not like offloading maybe isn't the right word, but like yeah, like moving
mm.
some of that stuff to a digital space where like you could play out or move forward those elements of the story or mechanics through play by post sort of stuff where you're just in a group
Mm-hmm.
chat talking in Discord or something like that. Um, I'm writing that down. Where's my pen? Where's my pen? Because I think that right there is a golden piece of advice that I think might unlock this for me
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of other things. Because like yeah, like even my like you said like Lumen games which run fast. Like I and like you said very early on, we design the games that we want to play. I design games that I want to play.
Right,
Fast
right.
games. Like there is still the other like the not fighting stuff in Lumen that I do want to do, but like by the time I'm done with a Lumen session, I'm usually like, I'm done. I'd love to see what it looks like when we go back to the city to talk to people, but meh, I'm not gonna do it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just usually
Mm-hmm.
don't
Mm-hmm.
do it. But moving things to
Yeah.
Discord, ooh,
Yeah. Especially what you're doing with factions, right? With Nova, it feels like it makes sense where you just keep going back and forth between these different spaces.
right. Sorry, I just have to write this note down before it leaves my mind because it's such a
No,
good,
no, no. Take your time. Take your time.
um, excellent. I finally found my favorite notebook. It had been missing forever, and I finally found it as part of the move, so I'm so excited about it.
Ah, perfect.
It's got
Perfect. It's so great that that happens.
my family is from Scotland, and this is our tartan. This is our colors. So
Oh,
I was very excited to
beautiful,
find it.
beautiful. Yeah. I love seeing everyone in the chat talking about the different ways they use
Yeah.
Discord or cut up their games. I'm gonna go back and screen cap this stuff.
Yeah, it's the chat is like full of wisdom right now, and I have not been very good about reading it. So I know that because like when you watch the VOD on Twitch, it replays the chat. So I will like just go back and be like, what was everybody talking about during this? Because
Right.
there's some good wisdom in there.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to like chat about or that we didn't cover?
No,
Any
I had so much fun hanging out with you. It's been super, super great.
I had so much fun. I was so excited about this. I was all excited to do it last week, and then I was like, wait a minute, I I'm moving the day before. I should not do this. So I really appreciate
I'm
you.
glad you took a break. I'm glad you took a break.
Yeah,
Yeah, moving is a huge thing.
and I
Yeah.
appreciate.
Oh, I will
Oh,
say one more thing is like please check out Vibe Check.
oh yeah, we're definitely gonna
I
do
feel like
the plugs and promo thing before we leave. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't like something you're like I've been really wanting to talk about this, and I wanted to just give that opportunity.
gosh. Yeah. I do wanna ask,
Mm,
like, I'm super interested in because you were talking about season pass stuff,
yeah.
right? I was like wondering it was like coming to me like the way that you're working on Slayer's Almanac,
Mm,
right? Like, wouldn't it be cool if you had like a season pass that was more than one creator working on stuff? That'd be
yeah.
like,
That would be the
right?
coolest thing in
Like,
the world.
right, right. Like, I don't know. I know Itch.io's not great at like, we don't have like
Right.
revenue sharing and it would make it difficult. But I was just like, what does Spencer think about
I
a season pass
I think
shared
that would
across
be
different people?
so freaking cool. Like to like for example, I want to do season passes for Nova, and I want each one to kind of be roughly about one
Mm-hmm,
of the enemy factions. And I think it
mm-hmm,
would be super cool if I could reach out to like three other people and be like, okay, it's about this faction. What do you want to like make for it? Do you want to make a Spartan inspired
Yeah.
by it? Do you want to just write like a cool short story and that is part of the season pass?
Yeah.
Like, and
Cool.
then it's like a collaborative. Then it's like an actual like magazine, right? It's like here's the next Nova magazine. Here's the cool tech in it. Here's some like design thoughts. Here's a short story in it.
Hmm,
Um,
hmm.
but like you said, revenue sharing on itch is a nightmare. So the
Hmm, hmm.
logistics would be something that you'd have to solve. Like I think like it would have to end up being I don't know. I don't know if this is the right solution, but like certainly like paying everybody like a commissioned rate ahead of time. Be
Right.
like pay
Right.
here's the thing, and then I don't know, like we just send out like monthly royalties like through PayPal or whatever, like based off of like okay, this many season passes sold, like I guess we'll and then here's your quarter of it if there's four of us. I don't know
Hmm,
what the
hmm,
best way
hmm.
of doing it is. It's
Yeah, yeah,
tricky.
yeah, yeah. For sure, for sure. Yeah, but I can't help but feel like because you have a tendency to make games that really just invite the
Mm.
community and really make it easy for people to like make games and things based off it or inspired by it. So yeah, it'd be super cool. Yeah.
You know, that's why I run the jams just to like put a like to make a centralized
Mm.
space for people who want to make
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
God, if I could do something that would make the collaboration easier, it would be amazing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, um,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make Corvid Court Aviary, which is kind of like the
Ooh.
Slayer's Almanac, but it's not like a setting thing only,
Ooh.
but it's just an
Mm.
invitation for like six authors to write anything they want for Corvid Court and then
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to like distribute that. And like how do I put that together besides the traditional method of raise a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
money and just pay them a flat rate and then I deal with distribution and everything like that after the fact. Like
Yeah. Right. Right.
it would be cool to find a way where you could get like this sort of season pass thing where you're like, all right, you're gonna get 6 months worth of weird bird stuff coming your way.
That sounds amazing.
And I would love to do it. Oh, there's an idea. One decent way I found to handle revenue sharing is to split the game design book between you and your co-creators and do a co-op bundle of those book pieces. Yeah, that's a clever way of doing it.
Ooh, that is smart.
Yeah, have
Yeah, that's definitely worth trying out.
and then Diceco says like that you have a never-ending sale that splits the revenue. That's a clever idea. So you
Mm.
would basically
Mm-hmm.
say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
here's my part, and then here's three other
Mm-hmm.
designers' parts. You
Mm-hmm.
want the
Mm-hmm.
bundle so you get the whole pass, and then everybody. I think, and yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Ooh, I want.
Yeah. Thanks, Chad. You're so smart.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly why we have to go back and look through this chat later on for its wisdom. Um.
Right, right. I think that's definitely worth trying out. I like how we're all trying to figure out itch tools and
Right.
hack them, like itch funding, being like, well, if we just like
Right.
put a sale with a goal,
Then we
right?
can get
Like
our nice progress bar. Right. Everybody is trying to hack itch to be what we wanted to. I mean, we already hacked itch when we jumped on the platform in the first place because
true, true,
it wasn't for
true.
RPGs, and we're like, we're gonna be here now. This is our place.
Oh my gosh, one of my favorite things was about 3 years ago, I think. There were conversations on people online, people on Itch.io making video games, and they were like, have you seen these TTRPG folks? Have you seen how much they charge for their PDFs? We should charge more.
Outrageous.
Right? We should
Good.
be charging more. Right? And I was like, yes, excellent, please. I mean, I'm still a proponent for like community copies and
Mm,
accessibility and all those things, but I'm a firm believer of people charging. I'm still working on it myself.
yeah.
Like I still feel a little shy raising my prices or charging appropriately, but I just love seeing that conversation. It was going on for a few months. It was
Right.
really, really funny.
Well, that also reminds me of, I believe it was for the RPG This Discord Has Ghosts in It, which Adam Bass and
Oh,
Willie
nice.
Opes made, where somebody bought it and then the infamous comment on the page is something along the
Oh
lines
no.
of like, no, there's no game here, only PDF. And it was like one of those things where like clearly this person is used to itch just being for computer
Right.
games. And they're like,
Right.
this
Right.
isn't a game. Yeah, no game, only PDF. Uh,
I feel like this should be a tagline. Yeah.
it got adopted in the Brain Trust Discord. Like it's because it had the like the little itch.io like red frog icon, and like that
Oh my
became
god.
a symbol of like bad itch.io comments. So like anytime you experience something bad on itch, it's you that little red frog is there just smiling and shouting at you, and you're like, God, that damn frog.
I also want to point out what Fun and Games is saying. I forget all the time that there's video games on it. Me too.
Yeah,
Like when I hit a video game, I go, oh, "What is this? How have I wandered into this space?" I mean, I love a lot of the video games on itch, but yeah. So
I completely forgot about it too, and then like months ago, sometime last year, I couldn't even possibly tell you when, but like on the front page, there was a thing that was somebody made a like a sort of a old school Legend of Zelda style game, but it was for Bloodborne. So you were like a Bloodborne hunter moving
whoa,
around, but like
whoa.
also kind of cute because like things were yarn based because it's Yarnum. And I was like, what is this? And then I remembered, oh, that's right, they put computer games on this site. How neat is this?
It's not just us TTRPGs trying to slay the bear
Right,
of Grant
exactly.
Howitt, right?
Oh, that
So
bear. Uh, anyway, that's a long-winded me way of saying I think doing season passes with other people would be super cool. I in general think the season pass
yeah,
model is something that I think people could enjoy doing more often. I
yeah, because it feels way more sustainable too.
It feels sustainable, and like for me, like one of the biggest pros is I feel constantly excited about the next piece that I'm making because I'm making it in pieces. So it's like, all right, this month I'm working on this part of it, and I can put all of me into putting this part, as opposed to like if there's a grand project that I'm working on, I'm like,
Yeah.
which part should I be working on? And this feels like a lot
Mhm.
that I'm doing, but instead it's like I'm
Mhm.
just doing this little thing. So I'm going to put all of me into this thing, and it's going to be fun and cool. And then I send it out, and then I go into the next little thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
It works with my brain and how it can be motivated on things, and it works with my ability to like release things at a pace that works for me as opposed to always
Mhm.
putting
Mhm.
together a whole ass thing every single time.
Right. 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 Right.
So hopefully that helps answer your question. I don't know if it does, but that's those are my thoughts
It
on season
does.
passes.
Yeah, and I love the help we got. The idea that's
Mm,
super awesome. I love that idea. So
yeah,
of like,
definitely.
yeah, that hack to share revenue. Let's see. Let's see.
Do it. Hack. Let's continue to hack itch to be the platform we want it to be. We will do it, gamers. Let's do it. Um, well, Ray, this has been an absolute blast and a half. I had a great time. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
same,
being
same.
here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Remind
super, super happy.
remind the fine folks at home where like they can find your stuff and all of that. I will try and grab links and post them as I can.
Thank you. Thank you. You can find my stuff at temporalhiccup.itch.io. You can also find me on Twitter at temporalhiccup. And you can also find me on Patreon, patreon.com/swordqueengames. That's where I put all of the stuff I'm working on. So everything that I've mentioned today, I also tend to share videos where I sit down and break down games. Like I'll have a commentary, or sometimes I'll design stuff uh, with alongside patrons. So that's super cool. And yeah, and please check out Vibe Check. I will keep plugging Vibe Check as one of the number one fans of the game. You can find that at ostrichmonkeygames.itch.io. I'm really, really super proud of the layout, but it's also a really good game by Josh. It's an excellent game that
You
Spencer and I got to play test.
We
So
did, and that's how we
this
got
was
to meet,
great.
and that's how this all happened. I threw a vibe check in there. It is beautiful. Go buy it so that Josh will be like, wow, a lot of people like this game. Maybe
Yeah, I
I
should
should
print it.
print it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
get
that'd
a
be kind of a
nice.
cool thing to do.
Yeah, get those pins done. Those tokens are great. Yeah, you know.
Excellent. We've done our duty. We've bullied Josh. And now we can wrap up coffee break. Um,
100%.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, everybody in chat. This has been a wonderful
Thanks, chat.
time. Next week, speaking of Will Yobst is going to be here. So Will,
Awesome.
who did this Discord has ghosts in it, and most recently Torque. So
Yeah,
dang
they're
excited to
so
talk to
cool.
Will about that. So we will see you all next Sunday, same time. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, evening. Ray, I know it's like real late for you. So
Yeah, almost 1 a.m., but it was super worth it.
sick.
So,
Awesome. I will talk to you all later. Bye.
bye.